The Toronto Blue Jays have made significant strides this offseason to improve their roster. A notable Twitter account has come out with their top 100 players of 2023, and some Toronto players are ranked fairly low. We'll be reacting to the entire list on this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. A lot to get into today. Some interesting rankings that we came across on Twitter. But first, I want to thank you all for the support. It's been unreal. Starting off the new year on the right foot, and hopefully we can keep it going.
Yeah, it's been unbelievable. And we got an interesting one for you today. It's going to be fun. Before we get into it, like you said, make sure to hit the subscribe button if you're new and enjoy the daily content. But let's just jump right into it. This is, we're going to start with 191, and we'll be going fairly fast, but where the Blue Jays are disrespected, we'll stop, because that's kind of the theme of the video. So let's just get right into the first list, which is, here's our top 100 players. You have Cortez, Kershaw, Musgrove, Albies, Severino, Swanson, Bader, Javier, Benintendi, and Manoah at 91. Peter, what are your thoughts on this?
Okay, first, before we address the elephant in the room here in Alek Manoah, I'm just going to get this out of the way. I don't think Ozzie Albies is all that great. I don't think he should be in the top 100. Dansby Swanson is ranked very, very low after having a career season in Atlanta, winning a World Series the year before that. And Christian Javier and Alek Manoah don't belong there. I mean, Christian Javier is one of the early picks for the AL Cy Young Award. Alek Manoah will be in the mix as well, as he usually is. So maybe they're not top 50 players, but they should definitely be at least in the 60s, if not the 50s.
Yeah.
Both of those guys.
Yeah, I agree. And the main one here is Alek Manoah. We made a little video on him being disrespected here. He should be higher than 91, and I feel like most people agree. But yeah, I agree with everything else you said, and Swanson could definitely be ranked better than that. But let's get into the next one, which is 90 to 81. Now, I'm not sure if there's any Jays on this ranking. I'm not 100% sure, but here it is now. This is the 90 to 100 ones. We have Darvish, Chisholm, Carroll, Stanton, Marte, Gallen, Webb, Lowe, Woodruff, and Muncy. The main one I have an issue with here is I feel like Stanton being ranked ahead of Manoah is a bit wild. Other than that, it's a fairly good list for me. Do you have any quick thoughts on this one besides with Stanton?
I think this is the biggest disaster of his entire list, if I'm being honest, Nick. 90 to 81 is an absolute disaster for this guy. Now, you're telling me Corbin Carroll, Giancarlo Stanton, and Max Muncy are better players than Christian Javier, Dansby Swanson, and Alek Manoah? There's no way. First of all, if I don't even know what his valuation here is. Like how are you doing these rankings? Is it by WAR? Is it by who you think is going to be good? Is it by talent? That remains to be seen. Now, these are his top 100 MLB players for 2023. So you're telling me Max Muncy, who hit under 200 last year, who doesn't really do anything particularly well, is the 81st best player in all of baseball? Corbin Carroll, who's played 30 games in the major leagues, is the 89th best player in all of baseball, or the 86th. So that's just crazy to me. And Giancarlo Stanton has no value besides at the plate hitting home runs. He had 84 hits last year. 31 of them were home runs. Now he missed a lot of the season due to injury. He's still a great power threat, but he hit 211, OBP under 300. His WAR was under 1, so he has no defensive value whatsoever. He doesn't belong in the top 100 either. He's had some great years, but it just doesn't make sense to me. And I could go on. Nate Lowe had one good season in the major leagues before last year, and it's just it's crazy to me. It's crazy to me how these guys, how he manages to discredit every MLB fan base. How he manages to make them all mad.
Yeah, we're gonna. I know there's gonna be a lot of comments on this video discussing our takes, and I'll leave that one to you, and we'll move on to the next one. So you have to go fairly quick here. Let's go through 80 to 71, which is I believe. Let's pop this up now. So this is Willie Adames, Rosarena, Ian Happy. I have Kevin Gausman sighting here with Max Fried, Seiya Suzuki, Tommy Edman, Jeremy Pena, Cal Rayleigh, and Vinny Pasquantino. What are your thoughts on this? Yeah, that's on this list with Kevin Gausman at 77.
I like it. I
agree.
like this one. The only problem I have with this is maybe Seiya Suzuki. I don't know if he belongs there. You know, he had a rough rookie year last year with the Chicago Cubs. I don't think he's better than any of those guys in that 80 to 71 ranking over there. So maybe I'd move him down a touch, but I think it's a good ranking. Vinny Pasquantino, 71st ranked player, can have a breakout year with the Royals. And Kevin Gausman, we know what he does. He's a steady Eddie out there on the mound. No shift in 2023, which should help him a lot. So I'm excited to see what all of those players can do in 2023.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see Gausman ranked 20 spots above, or a bit less than 20 spots above Manoah, but I guess the advanced metrics favor Gausman a bit more, especially with the shift going away and the batted balls in play. But yeah, I agree with you. That was a very good one. No complaints there. Maybe Seiya, but even then, it's nitpicking a little bit. But we'll go to 60 or 70 to 61, which is now this one right here, which includes our boy Dalton Varsho, Lars Nootbaar, and Alejandro Kirk. This is an interesting one. So you have Kirk 2 slots ahead of Varsho. You have Brian Hayes, Brandon Lowe, Julio Urias, Castillo Anderson, Kwan, and Cease. Do you have any major problems with this one?
I don't know if I have any major problem. Brian Hayes is another one that sticks out. Like he's what's he gonna do in Pittsburgh? You know, he's
Yeah.
not the best hitter, great defensive third baseman, but apart from that, nothing spectacular. I'm not sure Lars Nootbaar is a better player than Dalton Varsho at this stage in his career.
I
I
agree.
think Dalton Varsho is a little bit ahead of him, although Nootbaar is going to be pretty good in 2023. And it just shows how much talent there is in the major leagues. To have
Yeah.
Julio Urias, who won the ERA title in the National League last year, ranked this low. Luis Castillo, who absolutely carved up the Blue Jays and was unbelievable in Seattle, to be at 64, just shows in how great of a state the talent in the game is right now.
Yeah, I like this part of the list a lot, and I think it is fair having Castillo ahead of Gausman and Manoah, especially what he did last year. But otherwise,
Mhm.
I like it. Again, I'm with you. I'm with you on the Nootbaars thing, but like maybe just literally swap Nootbaar and Varsho, and I'd be happy. And Brian
Yeah.
Hayes, I can see an argument if you're going off what you think he could do in 2023. He has all the potential in the world. So, and Cease as well is great. So I like this one. He's on a bit of a hot streak, back to back good ones. Let's move on to the let's move on to the next one right here. So we're at 60 to 51 here now, and this one has some interesting players as well, and I'll get your thoughts on this one, Peter. So we have Pete Alonso, we have Matt Chapman, O'Neill Cruz, Anthony Rendon, Zach Wheeler, Marcus Semien, Shane Bieber, Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer back-to-back with Luis Robert at 51. It's very interesting to see. So they have Matt Chapman ranked ahead of Kirk, ahead of Gausman, ahead of Manoah. And do you have any thoughts on this right here? There's a lot of superstars on this one.
This is where the hot streak ends, Nick. I don't like this list at all. And Anthony Rendon sticks out like a polar bear does in the Arlington, Texas heat. That's the best comparison I could give you. He is not a top 100 player. He hasn't even played 100 games in the past 2 seasons. That contract has been an absolute disaster for the Los Angeles Angels, and I don't see any indication as to how he's any better at third base than Matt Chapman. How he's 2 spots behind Marcus Semien, it just does not make sense to me. He's not even a top 60 player. He's not a top 100 player. So I don't know what Anthony Rendon is doing over there. Other than that, I guess fair ranking, I would put Justin Verlander ahead of Max Scherzer, if I'm being honest, because Scherzer, although he's been good in the regular season, he's flamed out in the playoffs the past couple years, and his arm he can't deal with a deep postseason run, and he's shown that. So I'd put Verlander ahead of him.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Anthony Rendon. You can maybe make an argument for between 180, but definitely not at 57. Matt Chapman at 59. I think that's pretty solid. He's getting some respect there, and it's good to see Semien as well up there. So I agree
Pete
with.
Alonso disrespected a little bit too. I think
Yeah,
he should be ranked a little bit higher than 60. He was unreal at the plate last year.
I guess defense is the only thing value wise with him playing first base. But I don't know. We'll move on to the next one now. But I agree, it's solid. It wasn't too bad, but it definitely Rendon's
It wasn't
a while.
egregious. It wasn't
Exactly,
egregious.
and that's
But
what we're
Rendon, man, come on,
that's what we're hoping for
come
now.
on.
So 50 to 41. Let's get into this one. We'll go through this one fairly quickly. McClanahan, Reynolds, Realmuto, Meneal. We have George Springer, Will Smith, Framber Valdez, Spencer Strider, Xander Bogaerts. Do you have any quick thoughts on 50 to 41?
Realmuto is way too low. I think he's a top 30 player in the majors.
Agree.
I think he's also the best catcher in the major leagues. He's better than Adley Rutschman is at this stage of his career, although Rutschman's going to be the guy within the next couple years. So Real Muto way too low at 48. I don't know what he's doing there. George Springer, I like where he's at. You know, he's a great player. We know what he does as a Jays fan. Framber Valdez is also a little bit too low for my liking, but it's not the worst list in the world. But Real Muto, it's
Yeah.
got to be further up the list.
Agree. Everyone else, honestly, on that list, I feel like he's in a pretty good spot, especially Springer. But Real Muto, that's weird. He should be higher. And you can make an argument for Valdez as well. He's been really solid since he came into the league. But let's get into the next one now. It's 40 to 31. We're approaching the top 10, and 40 to 31 is an interesting one. I'll pop up the screenshots now. You have Bo Bichette and Vladdy at 40 and 34, with 3 Braves almost in a row, and Gunnar Henderson ranked ahead of Bo Bichette. What are your thoughts on this, along with Vladdy, who is ranked behind Brennan Nimmo?
Gunnar Henderson, I don't understand that guy. Same thing, played a handful of games in the major leagues. Like, where are we going? What's the barometer for this list? What are we taking into account to rank these players? It just doesn't make sense how Gunnar Henderson is just a few spots behind Vladdy, who's going to be an MVP candidate this year and years going forward, and how he's ahead of Bo Bichette. That doesn't make sense either. But whatever, I digress.
Yeah, I think it's based on what he thinks they're going to be, how good they are in 2023, in which case it makes a tiny bit more sense. That is the wrong screenshot. But even then, I think you've got to give Bo Bichette the edge just because he's been one of the best hitters in baseball. Obviously, his defense isn't there, but Gunnar has not played enough. And I don't know, Vladdy, it depends. He obviously had a bit of a down year last year, so I can understand maybe 34, but I don't know. It's very, I will admit, it is very hard to rank, obviously, these players, so I'm not discrediting him necessarily, but I feel like Vladdy in particular is pretty hard to rank going forward, because on some one spectrum, he could be elite next year, and some people have him being the same as last year, but I digress. We'll go into the next chapter now, which is 30 to 21, which includes players like Wander Franco, Tyler Glasnow, Corey Seager, Devers, who just got extended, Rushman at 25, Kyle Tucker, Paul Goldschmidt, Freeman, and Lindor. No Jays in this one, so we'll go by it quickly. Do you have any complaints at all with this one? Yeah, 2 Rays in the list.
It's Corey Seager might be a little high for me. 28.
I agree.
He's not the best defensively. He had a good year last year at the plate, but even then, like, is he that much better than Bo Bichette? I don't think so. You know, provides not the best defense at shortstop. So Devers too might be a little bit high there, but I don't know, not the worst list. Rutschman, maybe him as well. He's not better than Real Muto just yet, so we can keep going. We can go to the next one.
That one was no Jays in that one, so we'll kind of brush by it here now. Let's go to this one, which is 30 to 21, which includes players such as Alex Bregman. That's actually the wrong chapter, but either way, Alex Bregman, Garrett Cole, Bryce Harper, Ronald Acuna Jr., Jordan, Mookie Betts. We're getting into the big players here now. What are your thoughts on these guys? Lots of superstars.
Yeah, lots of superstars. Mookie Betts a little low for me. Bryce Harper, I don't know what he's doing there. He's going to be gone until the All-Star break. I'm not denying his talent, but if we're ranking them based on what they're going to do in 2023, then Bryce Harper has no business in the top 20 because he's going to miss 5 months of the season. So I don't know what we're doing here.
Yeah, it's hard to rank Bryce Harper again. I think it's based on 2023, but like you said, if it is based on that, the injuries thing, I like Julio at 12. Mookie Betts at 15.
I like that.
And Ronald Acuna Jr. at 17, maybe a little high, but I don't know. It's interesting. Garrett Cole at 19. I guess he has a track record, but he didn't have a great year last year, so that might be my other complaint. But let's get into the final, and this is the one most people are waiting for now, the top 10 players of, according to this guy, of the MLB season, which is right now, let's just get into it, 10 to 1, and this one has some crazy players on it. This is the top 10. We'll go over this, a couple minutes on this one. Carlos Correa, Manny Machado, Jose Ramirez, Sandy Alcantara, Jacob deGrom at 5, Mike Trout at 4, Soto at 3, which is our big gripe here, Judge at 2, and Shohei at 1. I agree with the top 2. I don't know how Soto is ahead of Trout necessarily, maybe health, but even then, I don't know. What are your thoughts before we wrap up this crazy video?
There's no world where Juan Soto is a better player than Mike Trout right now. I mean, Trout had a 6.3 wins above replacement in just 110 games last year. So when he's healthy, he's still arguably the best player in all of the major leagues, and I'd even rank him ahead of Aaron Judge. No one is denying that Shohei Ohtani is the most dynamic player in the majors right now, but I wouldn't even put Fernando Tatis that high either. I mean, he hasn't played in over a year.
Yep.
I think Carlos Correa had surpassed him as the best shortstop in the game, although there's question marks surrounding him as well. I'm surprised Trey Turner isn't in the top 10 as opposed to Fernando Tatis. But I don't know. The Phillies made the World Series last year, and they don't have a single player in the top 10, and they got better. So that doesn't make sense to me. But Juan Soto is not the third best player in baseball, not yet, especially after that down year that he had.
Yeah, he's definitely top 10. There's no arguing that, but I would definitely put Trout ahead of him. And it's good to see Sandy getting some respect. You can make an argument for him over DeGrom simply because of the workload that he has, innings pitched. DeGrom, obviously, dominant pitcher and one of the best of all time, but Sandy has pitched more innings consistently, so you can make an argument for that. Jose Ramirez at 8. You could replace him with Tatis.
That's low.
Too.
That's low.
You could replace him
with
Tatis.
He's borderline top 5. Borderline top 5.
Yeah, I agree. And other than that, I don't know. I agree with the top 2 though. And what are your guys' thoughts on this type of video and I guess the list as a whole? Lots of Jays on there. I don't think many. There's a few Jays that were disrespected, but as a whole, it was okay. I guess Bo Bichette, Manoah were the 2 that were kind of really disrespected, especially because Bo Bichette was behind the other shortstop that I'm forgetting the name of. But either way, we'll wrap up the video now. Let us know in the comment section what your thoughts are, and what your biggest gripe with this list was, and what player you thought should be ranked higher. And we'll see you guys in tomorrow's video.
Yeah, I'll just say this before we go out, Nick. I'd rather the Jays not be overrated going into the season and have to prove their rankings. I guarantee you there's going to be a couple of Blue Jays in the top 20 next year.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what his list will be in 2024, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Thanks.